Hey, this is David of Strong by Lee. This segment might be a doozy. We're going to talk about emotional health in light of current situations. It was suggested to me by a friend I should talk about emotional health, discuss some strategies to improve or maintain our emotional sanity, stability, and strength during times of high stress and tension. If you're listening to this, it's March 2020. There is a pandemic going on, a viral outbreak known as COVID-19. It has brought Italy to its knees. Italy is on national lockdown. It's gone through the Asian countries, South Korea, Japan. It originated in China. Over 100,000 deaths, over 100,000 infected, 132,000 infected, over 5,000 deaths as of yesterday. Right now, it's making its way through the U.S. and bringing the national economy to a screeching halt. During times like this, what can we do to manage our emotional health? I think this is a lot easier said than done. And I'm going to try to make a corollary analogous to health and fitness because emotional health is extremely important. I'm a big believer that transformation doesn't only happen from the neck down, it also happens from the neck up. If you're not in the right headspace, it's really difficult to be in the right body space. I'm not claiming to be an expert. I don't have 20, 30, 40, 50 years in mental health. I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist. I am a personal trainer and a registered dietitian who continually does research, tries to stay up to date on emotional health practices. I know a little bit about rational emotive behavior therapy, cognitive behavior therapy. I'm a big believer in trying to help my clients manage their emotions, their moods, and their attitudes and their mentality because that inevitably, invariably leads to better outcomes and results from their physical standpoint, their work ethic, their ability to lose weight, lose fat, get stronger, and look better. So we're going to discuss some strategies that were born out of discussions I've had with clients, out of the research I've done, things I've tried on myself, and things I've done with my clients with good results. There are a lot of strategies, so many strategies. The list is so exhaustive. I will not be able to go through any of them. I'll just handpick a few. They're not listed in any particular order. They don't have to be particularly more important or more impactful than the other thing. These are just some of the things that have occurred to me as I was thinking about making this segment. The first thing we want to understand, the detrimental effects of emotional stress is arguably more significant than physical stress such as training, physical discomfort, and injury because the body goes through a predictable process to recover from an injury or stress or stimulus. It releases inflammatory and stress hormones. It will go through a period of what's called anabolism and catabolism, which is building up and breaking down to repair tendons, ligaments, bones, muscles. On the other hand, emotional stress is something that is largely self-inflicted for a vast majority of people. Now, of course, if you have a family history of illness or something tragic happened to you where you might not have full control over your mental faculties, you might not have the same luxuries and the fortuitousness to try some of these exercises. It wouldn't be fair for me to say your emotional stress is inflicted if you don't have control over your mental faculties. However, for a vast majority of people, we do. We do have large control over how long we stay in what's called an emotional prison and to what magnitude, so length and intensity. We can't always control how we immediately respond to a stressful event or a joyous event, but we can control how long we reap the consequences, the positive and the negative consequences from that particular event. There's a saying in Stoic philosophy that it's not the events themselves that disturb us, it's how we view the events. And in that vein, we want to understand what's called the dichotomy of control. This is one of the central tenets of Stoic philosophy, an ancient Roman philosophy that was practiced by Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, and Musonius Rufus thousands of years ago. And that is learning how to identify what's in your control and what's not in your control, and then figuring out if it's rational for you to even make a decision about whatever that particular situation is. The weather, irrational for you to get upset about it. A viral outbreak, irrational for you to be upset about it. You saying yes to chocolate and sabotaging your progress for the day and getting upset, irrational. You eating chocolate, not getting upset, taking responsibility, rational. So rationality and irrationality boils down to the responsibility that we take for our decisions and the logical process we undertook to come to that decision. If you eat a piece of chocolate or you sabotage your own progress because you're emotionally stressed out, that's an irrational behavior. If you sabotage your progress, ate a piece of chocolate, and accepted full responsibility for it and decided that you're going to create a game plan to recover, that's rational. That's because humans, we are creatures who are rational. We're not rational creatures. We're creatures who are rational, meaning that we are able to make decisions based off data, logic, and our perception of reality. And that is really the central tenet of the Stoic philosophy, the dichotomy of control. And I think many of us will benefit from better emotional health once we can start delineating between what type of things we have control over and what we don't, and then being more rational about it. It's no secret. We are more rational the more emotional we are. When we're scared, when we're angry, when we're sad, we tend to make more irrational decisions, or it's easier to make irrational decisions when we're under the auspices of emotional duress. Let's try to take a step back and evaluate the situation objectively so that we can make rational decisions and not give into emotional stress, because you are going to experience a lot of crappy days. You're going to probably have a terrible job, maybe a terrible boss. You're going to experience terrible weather, especially if you live in the Northeast. There are a couple of options. You either accept them, you try to do your best within that framework, or you move, you change your scenario. If you really hate the weather in the Northeast and you keep complaining about it, then move. You can complain about it, but I think for the sake of emotional health, if you're going to complain about something, at least try to make it productive. Try to figure out something productive to do within that complaining. There are also some things that put our lives on alert and perspective. These are things that are largely outside of our control. Things like a viral outbreak that can be really devastating, because our emotional health is largely determined by what occupies our mind. If something gives our lives a little bit more perspective, there's a good chance that negative thoughts will enter our mind. It's going to behoove us to learn how to control what type of thoughts go in and out, what our inner voices are saying. We all have a different narrative. We all have a different life history. We all have a different process of making decisions based off of our history. Our emotional health is determined by what occupies our mind, what our inner voice is saying. I believe Musonius Rufus once said, "The color of our soul is dyed by our thoughts," or our soul is dyed by the color of our thoughts. I think if we do much better to learn how to control the narrative in our brain, we'll have better emotional health. Next, information overload, or the sources of information. I think learning how to decipher and filter the type of information that's coming in is going to be really, really important for emotional health. First and foremost, let's talk about the interpersonal competition on social media. When you go on social media and you see somebody boasting, bragging about how great their lives are, you can't always take that. You take that at face value, but you can't always trust them, because how many of us are really okay with exposing ourselves on social media, being vulnerable to judgment and criticism? Those things don't feel good because they're negative. And generally speaking, we want to avoid negative situations and confrontations. A lot of times, people will put up a front. Many times, people will put up the happy, joyous, best moments of their days, of their months, their years, their lives on social media for everyone to see, because maybe some people feel better when they get likes and comments and compliments over how beautiful their family is. Whatever the case is, research has shown that the copious use of social media, and I don't really know what copious might mean in this situation, the copious use of social media leads to depression. It's almost a causal relationship. There's a very strong association. When you consider your life to be in shambles, yet you see your best friend's life, oh, their kids are graduating from an Ivy League, they have a great job, they just got a raise, they got a cute little puppy. Man, you want to be happy for them, but at the same time, you're like, wow, what the heck? My life sucks. Why is this person's life so much better? Yada, yada. Why can't I get my crap together? That, I think, will lead you down a rabbit hole of emotional distress. So we have to be careful of what type of information we're getting from social media. Additionally, there are so many experts on social media. I'm a personal trainer. I am going to do my best to not overstep my purview, my boundaries. I am not going to talk about politics because I don't really know that much about politics. I'm not going to talk about the weather. I'm not going to talk about heart disease from a cardiologist standpoint because that is not my specialty. Yet you have so many people out there passing along memes, creating memes, trying to cite statistics as if they know what they're talking about. All of this information overload, I think, leads to emotional distress because you don't know who to trust. You have somebody saying this is the best way to lose weight. You have another person saying this is the best way to lose weight. All that information overload will lead a lot of people into paralysis. It's called paralysis by analysis, decision fatigue, because there's so many options. You're eventually led to inaction. We need to learn how to be more focused and targeted with our information sources. Okie dokie. For necessary updates pertaining to you, choose a couple of focused sources. Routine is crucial. Our body thrives on routine. A retired Navy SEAL commander named Jocko Willink, he has a book called Discipline Equals Freedom. As contradictory as that sounds, when you have control over your day, meaning you generally know how your day is going to play out, it's predictable, or at least you're trying to make it as predictable as possible, you actually release and relinquish you actually get more mental energy because you kind of know what to expect during the day rather than flying by the seat of your pants. If you don't have a routine, and a lot of people don't have a morning routine, a lot of people don't have an evening routine, many people have an afternoon routine because they're at work. They know when they're going to take lunch, they know when they're going to take a break, when they're going to take a smoke break, but a lot of people don't have an evening routine aside from brushing their teeth, showering, and watching Netflix. I think that hardly constitutes a beneficial and productive evening routine. A morning routine, people wake up with a snooze, they just kind of shovel whatever's in their mouth and they rush out the door to catch a train, whatever the case is. Try to get a routine because the body works so much better when it's orderly in a world of chaos. The world is chaotic. The world is suffering. The best thing you can do is try to control the confines of your inner citadel, your body, because inside your body, you have what's called a biological clock, a circadian rhythm that ebbs and flows with nature, with universal laws, the sun most likely. Ways that you can try to create a better routine if you don't have one already is learning when is the best time for you to exercise, what times you're going to eat, what times you're going to drink water. All of those things have a profound influence on your internal clock, your metabolic regulation, your hormones. Those are really, really important. And those hormones are what dictate your emotions because your emotions are created by your hormones. Next up, eating healthy. This should come as no surprise. Some things you can do to eat healthier if you're not already eating healthy or you need a kind reminder. Less alcohol, less refined and added sugars. The alcohol and the sugars are probably the more detrimental ones because they're both toxic. Alcohol is very toxic to the body. Your body has no way to store alcohol, so it's very toxic. Whenever you drink alcohol, your body's going to do whatever it can to get rid of that alcohol as fast as possible. Refined and added sugars. Elevated blood sugar as a result of intaking copious amounts of sugar is very toxic to the body. It actually puts your body in a state of inflammation. There's a lot of research showing that elevated blood sugar is actually what causes atherosclerosis, which is the buildup of plaque in the arteries. That inevitably leads to heart disease, to strokes, to high blood pressure. And of course, if you eat a lot of refined sugars, that's going to place a lot more stress on your pancreas because the pancreas is an organ that releases a hormone called insulin, which is responsible for bringing down blood sugar. You want to be careful with added refined sugars such as cakes and cookies and chips. Very easy to digest, absorb, and metabolize sources of sugar. How much sugar per day? Let's try 50 grams or less per day. The average American eats 150 grams of added sugar per day. Just to put things into perspective, 1 teaspoon of sugar is 4 grams of sugar. 1 tablespoon of sugar is 12. It's a lot easier than you think to eat 1 tablespoon of sugar. For example, a typical blueberry muffin will have 30 grams of sugar. A blueberry muffin has 300 calories. So easy to eat in the morning, which is one of the more common things people eat for breakfast. On the flip side, carbs are not the enemy. Even though sugar is a form of carbohydrate, carbs are not the enemy. You want to make sure you're having good carbs, potatoes, oats, tubers, whole grains if you need to, rice if you need to. These are all good sources of carbs that the body has to use a little bit more energy and elbow grease for to break down and to harvest as energy. It's not, and those foods typically have vitamins and minerals attached to them. Yes, fruits are considered a good carbohydrate, natural sugars, as conventional wisdom dictates them as natural sugars, useful for energy and mood regulation. Now, exercise, again, no surprise. Exercise has been shown in research to be highly effective against anxiety and depression. If you're not already exercising, go for brisk walks if you can. If you're quarantined, for a specific example, if you're quarantined, try to do something in your house. Work out, do planks, do body weight planks, body weight squats, side planks, push-ups if you can. Do something with your body. Your body is your gym. As long as you have your body, you can get in a workout. It might not be the most balanced workout, but it works at a pinch and it works when you're new. If you're already exercising, then this might be just a friendly little reminder to make sure you're exercising at the right intensities, the volume, and the frequency. What is the right intensity, volume, and frequency? It's going to be a little bit different for everybody, but the right type of frequency is every 48 to 72 hours, you should be engaging in some sort of high intensity resistance training or cardiovascular modality. Next, meditation. Guided meditation, breathing meditation. I like Sam Harris. He's a neuroscientist. He has an app called Waking Up where he takes you through guided meditation. Guided meditation, there is a plethora of research showing the benefits of guided meditation when it comes to relaxation, normalizing stress hormones, and giving people a higher sense of well-being. But many people either avoid meditation because they think it's for hippies, or they're afraid to be alone with their own thoughts. It's these people, the people who are afraid to be alone with their own thoughts, who need meditation the most because their minds are always running around. They're always anxious, thinking about things. It's time for us to slow down. Slowing down every once in a while is beneficial, especially when the world is so fast and chaotic. Start with some guided meditation. Breathing meditation is really simple. All you have to do is focus on your breathing. But a little bit more detailed is, when was the last time you checked in on your breathing? Breathing is the most essential, basic function for survival. And how many of us know the difference between intercostal / chest breathing and diaphragmatic breathing? Diaphragmatic breathing is the natural way to breathe. That's how we used to breathe when we were babies. It's the most natural, stress-free way to breathe. When you breathe through your chest, intercostal breathing, your shoulders will go up and down, and that will invariably lead to neck and upper back tightness, which is not fun to have. It's not comfortable. Who wants to sit at work with a tight neck and back? Not many people. So check out Sam Harris's app, Waking Up, if you need help with some meditation. This thing is getting to be a little bit too long. I'm going to cut it right here. We're at 18 minutes. I hope this was helpful for you. Please share what type of routines, what strategies you have. We'll talk about more strategies in the future when it comes to emotional health. I just thought that this was poignant and appropriate based on what's going on right now in the world. Please, let's try to stay more emotionally stable, sane, and strong for the sake of everyone, especially for the sake of yourself. This is David of Strong by Lee. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, send them over to me at david@strongbylee.com. Until next time, be strong.